Good morning to everyone. Myself B. Tulsi Koteswari Bai, lecturer in chemistry at CRR College for Women, Eluru. In this video, I am explaining Unit 5 Thermodynamics. Topic is Thermodynamics 4. In this video, I am explaining the topics Kirchhoff's equation, limitations of first law of thermodynamics, statements of second law of thermodynamics, spontaneous process, and Carnot cycle and its efficiency. Kirchhoff's equation. It is also known as temperature dependence of enthalpy of formation. When a system absorbs heat or revolves heat, then there is a increase or decrease in the temperature. So the exact variation of heat of a reaction with temperature is studied by Kirchhoff, and he is given as an equation. Its equation is popularly known as Kirchhoff's equation. Kirchhoff's equation is studied under two conditions. First condition is at constant pressure. So at constant pressure, consider a reaction A gives rise to B. In this reaction, A is the reactant and B is the product. Now suppose HA and HB are the heat contents, enthalpies of the reactants and products respectively. Then the heat of reaction, that is the change in enthalpy accompanying this reaction, is given by delta H is equal to HB minus HA. That is enthalpy of products minus enthalpy of reactants. Differentiating this equation with respect to temperature at constant pressure, we get delta H by delta T at P is equal to delta HB by delta T at P minus delta HA by delta T at P. But according to the definition of heat capacity at constant pressure, we know that Cp is equal to delta H by delta T at P. So from this can be written as Cp of B minus this is written as Cp of A. Hence this equation 1 becomes delta H by delta T at P is equal to Cp of B minus Cp of A. But this is also known as delta Cp. Hence this equation becomes delta H by delta T at P is equal to delta Cp. Since the term delta H is used for heats of a reaction at constant pressure, the above reaction may also be written as d of delta H by dt is equal to delta Cp. So by taking the dt value to the right hand side, this equation becomes d of delta H is equal to delta Cp into dt. The d of delta H and dt, these are the small changes. To get a large change, large difference, we can differentiate this equation between the limits delta H1 and delta H2 and temperature limits T1 and T2. Then that equation becomes integral of delta H1 to delta H2 d of delta H is equal to integral of T1 to T2 delta Cp dt. Here delta Cp is taken as a constant, so it is taken out of the integral. Then we get here integral of d of delta H means its value is delta H. So applying the limits, we get the answer delta H2 minus delta H1. In the right hand side, delta Cp is kept constant, then we get integral of dt. Integral of dt means its value is t. So by substituting the limits, we get t2 minus t1. This is equation 4. This t2 minus t1 is taken to the left hand side. Then this equation 4 becomes delta H2 minus delta H1 by T2 minus T1 is equal to delta Cp. This is equation 5. This equation 5 is known as Kirchhoff's equation at constant pressure. It may be defined as change in heat of a reaction at constant pressure for every degree change in the temperature is equal to the change in the heat capacity at constant pressure. Next, Kirchhoff's equation is also carried out at constant volume. In this, volume is kept constant, then change in the volume will be 0. We know that from enthalpy equation, H is equal to E plus PV. At constant pressure, delta H is equal to delta E plus P delta V. Substituting delta V is equal to 0 in the above equation, it becomes delta H is equal to delta E. So here, hence at constant volume, delta E is substituted in place of delta H of the equation 5, then it becomes delta E2 minus delta E1 by T2 minus T1 is equal to delta CV. Here also delta E2 minus delta E1 means change in the heat of a reaction. T2 minus T1 means change in the temperature. So it is defined as the change in the heat of a reaction at constant volume for every degree change in the temperature is equal to the change in the heat capacity at constant volume. This is also another form of Kirchhoff's equation. Next topic is limitations of first law of thermodynamics. From the statement of first law of thermodynamics, one form of energy is converted into another form. But it does not predict that the process in question can occur spontaneously or not. Spontaneous process means process which can occur on its own accord without the use of an external agency. Whether it is feasible or not, that is spontaneous means it is feasible or not. And if so, which direction the reaction takes place, it is not explained by first law of thermodynamics. That is, first law does not explain about the spontaneity and direction of the process. For example, the first law does not indicate whether heat can flow from a colder end to a hotter end or not. It is not explained by first law of thermodynamics. Second limitation. It has been observed that although various forms of energy can be completely transformed into another, but heat energy cannot be converted into equivalent amount of work without producing some other changes. That is, all forms of energy can be converted into another form except heat. Heat cannot be completely converted into work without producing changes elsewhere. So these two are the limitations of first law of thermodynamics. Basing on the limitations of first law of thermodynamics, second law, the statements of second law are framed. First statement of second law of thermodynamics, that is, first law does not explain about the spontaneity of the reaction, but second law explains the spontaneity of the reaction. That is, all spontaneous processes are thermodynamically irreversible. That is, the process occurring on its own accord are thermodynamically irreversible. That is, they are not reversed. Second statement, it is impossible to convert heat completely into equivalent amount of work without producing changes elsewhere. That is, according to the limitation of first law, heat cannot be converted into equivalent amount of work. So, here it explains that it is impossible to convert heat completely into equivalent amount of work without producing changes elsewhere. That is, without producing another change, heat cannot be converted into equivalent amount of work. That is, some of the heat is lost and it is evolved to the surroundings. Next, third statement is, generally heat passes from hotter end to colder end of the body. But the heat cannot by itself pass from a colder end to the hotter end without the use of an external agency. So, basing on this statement is framed. That is, without the use of an external agency, heat cannot by itself pass from a colder to a hotter body. These three are the statements of second law of thermodynamics. Next topic is spontaneous process. Spontaneous process is defined as a process which proceeds of its own accord without the help of an external agency. Such process is known as spontaneous process. All the natural processes are generally spontaneous. Hence, the term natural is also used for spontaneous process. Further, since spontaneous process cannot be reversed without the help of an external agency, hence these spontaneous processes are also known as irreversible process. So there are two other names for spontaneous process. These are natural and irreversible. Examples of spontaneous processes. First example is water flows down the hill spontaneously. Second example, Heat flows spontaneously from hotter end of the metallic bar to its colder end. Next example is heat flows spontaneously from hotter reservoir to colder reservoir. Next, diffusion of a solute from a high concentrated solution to a less concentrated solution when these are in contact with each other occurs spontaneously till the equilibrium is reached. Next example is electricity flows spontaneously from a point of high potential to a point of low potential. Next example is a gas expands spontaneously from a region of high pressure to a region of low pressure. Next example is a piece of zinc dissolves in dissolves spontaneously in copper sulfate solution, precipitating copper and evolving some heat. These are the best examples for spontaneous process. That is, these processes can occur without the use of an external agency. So, these are known as spontaneous process. Next topic is Carnot cycle and its efficiency. The scientist Carnot proposed a hypothetical heat engine which is known as Carnot's engine. To show the efficiency of a heat engine is based upon the temperatures between it operates. Carnot's engine consists of the following features. That is, it consists of a cylinder containing 1 mole of an ideal gas as the working substance and fitted with a weightless frictionless piston such that the process in this machine may be reversible. So, to occur the reversible process, the piston is taken as weightless and frictionless. So, this engine is also known as reversible heat engine. The cylinder is assumed to be insulated on all sides except the bottom because from bottom it can absorb or evolve heat. So, all the sides except bottom is insulated. The engine has two heat reservoirs. One is at high temperature T2 called source and another one is at lower temperature T1 called sink. The operations carried out in this engine may be two types. One is isothermal, another one is adiabatic. When the cylinder is kept on the source or sink, then it can exchange heat. Hence, here temperature remains constant. So, this process is known as isothermal. But whereas, when the cylinder is placed on the insulating material, then this cylinder does not exchange any heat. So, here heat remains constant, hence this process is adiabatic. The complete Carnot cycle consists of 4 operations or strokes. These are isothermal reversible expansion, adiabatic reversible expansion, isothermal reversible compression, adiabatic reversible compression. Let us see one by one. This is the PV diagram related to the Carnot's engine. It consists of 4 strokes, that is, first stroke is from A to B. This is isothermal reversible expansion. Second stroke is B to C. This is adiabatic reversible expansion. Third stroke is C to D, which is isothermal reversible compression. Fourth stroke is D to A, which is adiabatic reversible compression. Stroke 1, isothermal expansion. This is shown by the curve AB in the PV diagram. So, when the cylinder is kept on the source is at high temperature T2. So, our cylinder absorbs a heat Q2 from the source and performs a work. Then, the volume of the gas increases from V1 to V2. Therefore, here the gas performs a work called W1. So, the work done in the stroke 1 is calculated as, since it is a isothermal process, temperature is constant, change in the temperature will be 0. Therefore, internal energy is a function of temperature, hence change in internal energy is 0. Hence, according to the first law of thermodynamics, delta E equal to Q minus W. Substituting delta E equal to 0, here we get Q is equal to W. That is, the heat absorbed is equal to work performed. Here heat absorbed is Q2 and work performed is W1. Therefore, Q2 is equal to W1. Here W1 is obtained from the relation That is, work done for isothermal reversible expansion is given by the formula nRT ln V2 by V1. N is the number of moles. Here 1 mole of the gas is taken, so N value 1. Temperature is kept T2. So here W1 is equal to RT2 ln V2 by V1. In this relation, Q2 is equal to W1. Therefore, Q2 is also equal to RT2 ln V2 by V1. This is taken as equation 1. Stroke 2. Stroke 2 is an adiabatic expansion. That is, the cylinder is taken out of the source and it is kept on the perfectly insulating material such that here no heat is exchanged, no heat is absorbed. But the gas work performs some expansion work. That is W. Hence, the volume increases from V2 to V3. As a result, its internal energy decreases, then temperature also decreases from T2 to T1. This is shown in the PV diagram by the curve BC. Work done in stroke 2. Let the work done by the gas is equal to W2. Since this stroke is an adiabatic process, then there is no heat is absorbed, that is Q is equal to 0. Substituting in the first law equation, we get delta E equal to minus W2. Here W2 is equal to is given by, we know that in adiabatic reversible expansion W is equal to minus CV into T2 minus T1. Here its value is given as CV into T2 minus T1, where CV is the heat capacity of an ideal gas. Next, stroke 3. Stroke 3 is isothermal compression. That is, it is obtained when the cylinder is removed from the insulating material and is kept on the sink. Therefore, sink is at lower temperature. Then here compression of the gas takes place. Then its volume decreases from V3 to V4. Due to the compression, some heat is evolved. So, this heat is evolved to the sink. That amount is given by Q1. This is shown in the PV diagram by the curve CD. So, as a result of compression, here heat is evolved. That amount is given by Q1. Work done in stroke 3. During compression, work is done on the system and hence gas produces heat, which is transferred to the sink. Since compression takes place isothermally, then isothermally means temperature remains constant, there is no change in internal energy. Thus, if Q1 is the heat given to the sink at temperature T1 and W3 is the work done on the system, then here minus sign for work done, minus sign for heat. Minus sign for heat because heat is evolved to the sink. Minus sign for the work done because work is done on the system. So, it is given by the formula RT1 ln V4 by V3. This is taken as equation 3. Stroke 4. Stroke 4 is an adiabatic compression curve. This is obtained when the cylinder is taken out of the sink and it is placed on the perfectly insulating material. Here also compression work takes place. That is, its volume decreases from V4 to original volume V1. Then here, due to the compression, the temperature of the system rises from T1 to T2. This is shown in the PV diagram by a curve DA. Work done in stroke 4. In this step, work W4 is done on the system. So, and in adiabatic process, Q is equal to 0. Therefore, here also minus sign is given for work done because work is done on the system. So, minus W4 is equal to minus CV into T2 minus T1. Note that the work done in strokes 2 and 4 are equal and in opposite direction. Since the system is restored to its initial state, cycle is thus completed. Net work done in one cycle is obtained by adding all the work done in 4 steps. That is, W is equal to W1 plus W2 plus W3 plus W4. Here minus sign for W3 and W4 are given because here work is done on the system. So, negative sign is given. So, by substituting these 4 values from the equations 1, 2 and 3, 4, We get here in the second step and fourth step work is done equal but opposite. So these are two cancelled. So remaining W is equal to RT2 ln V2 by V1 plus RT1 ln V4 by V3. Net heat absorbed in one cycle is calculated by adding all the heat terms. Thus Q is equal to Q2 plus 0 plus minus Q1 plus 0, because in the first step Q2 amount of heat is absorbed, in the third step Q1 amount of heat is evolved. Second and fourth steps are adiabatic processes, so in these two steps no heat is absorbed and no heat is evolved. So finally Q is equal to Q2 minus Q1. This is taken as equation 6, where Q2 and Q1 are the heat absorbed and evolved in strokes 1 and 3 respectively. Substituting the values of Q2 and Q1 from equations 1 and 3 in equation 6, we get Q is equal to RT2 ln V2 by V1 minus RT1 ln V4 by V3. Minus into minus gives rise to plus. So RT2 ln V4 by V2 by V1 plus RT1 ln V4 by V3. This is taken as equation 7. From equations 5 and 7, it is evident that W is equal to Q, that is net work done is equal to net heat absorbed for Carnot's engine. Since V1 and V4 lie on the same adiabatic curve AD for an adiabatic change, we know that for adiabatic change Tv power gamma minus 1 is equal to constant. So applying this relation to the curve AD, then we get the relation V4 by V1 power gamma minus 1 is equal to T2 by T1. And also similarly for volume V2 and V3 lying on the same adiabatic curve BC, it follows the relation Tv power gamma minus 1 is equal to constant. Then we get a relation V3 by V2 power gamma minus 1 is equal to T2 by T1. This is equation 8 and this is equation 9. Comparing these two equations, these are containing right hand sides equal. So on equating the left hand sides, we get V4 by V1 power gamma minus 1 is equal to V3 by V2 power gamma minus 1. Powers are cancelled, then we get V4 by V1 is equal to V3 by V2. This V3 is taken to left hand side, V1 is taken to right hand side, then we get V4 by V3 is equal to V1 by V2. Substituting the value of V4 by V3 in the equation 5, we get W is equal to RT2 ln V2 by V1 plus RT1 ln V1 by V2. Here inverse is taken, then log A power minus 1 means it can be written as minus log A. Therefore it becomes minus RT1 ln V2 by V1. So here taking the common, R is common, ln V2 by V1 is common. While taking these common, we get R into T2 minus T1 ln V2 by V1. This is equation 10. Efficiency of the heat engine. Since the efficiency may be obtained from equations 10 and 1, that is the formula for the efficiency is eta is equal to W by Q2. W is the total work done, Q2 is the heat absorbed. By substituting these values, that is W is equal to R into T2 minus T1 into ln V2 by V1 and Q2 value R into T2 into ln V2 by V1. In both numerator and denominator R is there, so cancel. ln V2 by V1 is there, cancel. So finally it becomes T2 minus T1 by T2. That is, the efficiency of the Carnot's engine is only depends upon the temperature of the source and temperature of the sink, but not on the working substance. These are the list of reference books for this unit, for this topic. Thank you.